Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning from wherever you log in. Um, I welcome today. I have a very honored guest and a person who has been a professional in the space of CSR and inclusion, and a group which has been a pillar and which has been steadfast in its approach towards creating a better society. I have the CSR head of Pahwa Group. Welcome to you, ma'am. I have Anandita Pahwa, ma'am, today, who heads CSR initiatives of Pahwa Group. Uh, Before we proceed, ma'am, if you could please help us with a small introduction about yourself and the works of Pahwa Group. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi, Arjun. Thank you so much for having me on this interview. It's nice to be here. Just to give you a little bit on Pahwa Group. So, we are a group of knowledge and technology based companies. The products
Right,
that
ma'am.
we manufacture provide innovative air solutions for environmental control. They have a lot of
Right,
applications, and we have a wide area of companies that we service. And we're a
right, ma'am.
global group. We have a presence in six continents across,
Wow.
and for our CSR, just to give you a little background on what we
Great.
do, we started our CSR in 2011, which was way
Right, ma'am.
before it was demanded by the company's law of companies to be doing this. So the
Right,
idea and the thought was to give back to society. And we have identified three areas that we work in, which is vision, education, and environment. So all our projects are on these three themes. And of course, we'll
okay.
discuss more going forward.
Right, ma'am.
And
Ji.
so, another important part of our CSR is that our inspiration comes from the grandfather of our chairman. So, our group chairman is Mr. Deepak Pahwa. Pahwa Group is headed by him. So, his grandfather was Rai Bahadur Dr. Mathra Das Pahwa. He
Right,
was a philanthropist and eye surgeon, very famous in his time. He did a lot of charitable work in the field of cataract mainly, a lot of free camps. He was awarded the Padma Shri as well for his contribution in the field. He used to hold a lot of eye camps, which were for free, and he did a lot of eye surgeries to the point where he had the record of the world at one point, where he had the maximum number of eye surgeries done in a day. And
right,
he also set up a lot of institutes in his time, where there was a hospital, many educational institutes. So we're trying to actually take inspiration from his work and carry forward his legacy. So that's why vision is very important to our core of CSR, and also education. And of course, environment goes with all our products that we manufacture, so environment is a theme that works.
right, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ananta, ma'am, and also for sharing the history, both for the company and also of the group, and how the grandfather of the organization has also been participating towards creation of opportunities for people, especially with visual impairment, to come out of and counter the disability in a better way. And then I'm just correcting. I think then 2011 and even before is when maybe decades before is since when Pava Group has been active in the space of CSR, and and that is way before the Companies Act came into place. So that's like decades of history working in this space, and applauds to you for carrying this work forward. Ma'am, specifically on the question of measuring the impact of the various or the three thematic programs which the Power Group engages with, which I understand is vision, environment, and education. Um,
Right.
More important implementation, as you would also concur, is the measurement of the impact which the program delivers, and that also becomes very important from setting certain KPIs and matrices which can measure that impact, so that it creates a benchmark for for the subsequent years. I asked this question also from a learning perspective, as there are many NGO leaders who also hear this podcast. How do you measure, and how can we learn from that and set benchmarks in our own practices?
So, like you said, it's very important to actually benchmark and also measure the impact that we're having. So at Power Group, for all of our CSR programs that we run, we have a lot of reporting that we have. We work in a partnership way with our NGO partners. So it's not that we are just doing the financial contribution and the entire
Right.
program is just left over to the NGO. We do organize things together. We do have a lot of employee volunteering that happens. We have
Right.
a lot of programs that we would set up. So, and we collect a lot of data. So, a lot of quantitative data is collected. For example, for ICAMs, we'll have all our data as to which are the villages that we have done the various ICAMs in, how
Okay.
many. Uh, how many people actually came out of 300
Mm.
people or 400 people that came, how
Right.
many how many spectacles were distributed, how many medicines were distributed, how many people went in for cataract surgeries, what is the age group that is there,
Mm.
that's coming out. So then that's all the quantity that's there. It's a quantitative data, but of course it needs to be analyzed. So analyzing for
Right.
us would give us an idea that okay, if this is the average number of people that show up, then a camp is
Mm.
successful in our mind. That if we cross a certain number of the
Mm.
total number of people, and also what is the age group of a village, so that
Mm.
we will get more of a older generation, so that we get more cataract operations that come out. The idea is
Mm.
to reach the maximum people, and the idea
Sure.
is to help maximum people. So you want to do as many medicines or as many spectacles or as many cataract operations that you can do. So if you're
True.
going somewhere where there's a very young population, obviously the outcome is not going to be as favorable as going where there's going to be a larger population of older people.
Mm.
So we
Mm.
do have these kind of uh, things that we do, and figure out how going forward which are the villages that work for us, and
Mm.
also how long do we need to come back to them in. Do we go back once a year? Do we go back once in 6 months? So this is just an example of how data for us that we use quantitatively and qualitatively both for effectiveness. For skill development as well, we would have a lot of data on, let's say, how many are the number of women who are there in a project, and
Right.
keep in touch with them even afterwards to keep track of whether they got employed, how many percentage got employed, are they or they're self-employed, are they getting jobs in beauty parlors, are they setting up their own stitching units, what is
Mm.
the average earning that is happening, is it 75%, is it 80%? So we do
Okay.
a lot of follow up with the children as well as the students of the skill development programs that pass out, and then we try to tweak our programs that way, and then you actually get to know where the gaps are, that if they are doing something after doing the course or not. And if they're not getting the opportunity, for example, if we see that okay, only 50% are doing something after the course, then obviously there's
Right.
some lag that needs to be filled in, where they need some sort of guidance after completing the course. They need some more hand holding, they need more
Mm.
opportunities. So then you try to fill in that gap, and look for opportunities for them to get employed, or
Sure.
give them the help that they need or support they need to actually set up something out of their own home. So these are various steps based on the projects that we have practically that we do to
Mm.
actually go through the data and analyze the data and see where are the gaps that can be filled. So they're very different for all projects. I've shared
Right.
two examples with you, but there are many. Each program would have its own
No, absolutely. Ma'am,
benchmark.
just continuing from where you spoke about, and I understand primarily the audience to which Power Group attends, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's to do with the rural audience, people maybe in tier two and tier three cities, or even the rural parts of those cities. Now,
Yes.
when it comes to skill development initiatives, a challenge which is I think perennial is that should it be more towards self-employment opportunities or should it be pivoted towards waged employment? Uh, However, it goes without saying that in terms of urban versus rural, the opportunities for waged employment in terms of having industries and in terms of having uh, jobs in the professional or the more corporate outlook, they would be more pivoted towards them being present in urban areas. So, with your experience, especially from a skill development point of view, do you see that augmenting opportunities for self-employment amongst the youth of graduating from the skill development program should be the way forward, and thought should be given around what could be the locally developed opportunities that can service the audience from where they live, rather than them migrating, because migration comes with its own set of challenges. So, should that be the way forward, or should it be more towards skilling for needs which may not be immediately available there, and trying to get people out and for them to work in the urban parts? What are your thoughts to that? Because accordingly, we'll have to structure the skill training program too.
Right. It totally depends on the age group and the target of the skill that is being rolled out, the skill development programs. What we are doing is for women. So when you
Hmm.
look at women, also depends on the age. We are looking at women who are not young women. They're already married. They already have kids. They're part of a family, and
True.
the what our target is to give them some sort of skill where they can either get employed or open their own part-time work out of the home, whatever works for them,
Okay.
and start being a little bit self-sufficient, start contributing to the income of the family, because very
Okay.
often there's only one single income earner, and that's not enough, and the kids are not being able to be educated, or the various things, medical gets left behind. So I think with these women, fully waged job,
Hmm.
which is going to be a full-time job, is hard because they're coming out of their homes, they have household responsibilities and children. So what we have seen, what works for them is the younger ones who may not be married or may not have kids yet,
Hmm.
they are ready to work in a beauty parlor and have a job from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. On the other
Correct.
hand, there are women who may not be able to get away from the house, may not have family
Hmm.
support to be able to do that. So they are doing
Hmm.
something which is part time, maybe a half a shift, not a full day shift, but a half day shift. And then there are
Correct.
yet more who are doing stitching and tailoring, and they open their own unit, or maybe they are just working out of the house for a few hours and
Hmm.
supplying, clothes on order or stitching things
Hmm.
on order to the people around. There are even
Correct.
others in the beauty parlor thing where they're learning the skills, but they're not going to a parlor regularly. They are just
Hmm.
going home to home based on appointments for as much of
Right.
time as they can get away, maybe not every day also. So it
Right.
depends on the age group, I feel, that's being targeted. The location of the women, like you said, they may not be factories and employable options for them close by. If they're in a rural area and you're teaching them a skill
Hmm.
which needs to be, they need to travel somewhere and go to a company and work, that may not work for them. They won't have the
True.
opportunity to do that. So in those
True.
cases, when you're rural, then you need to look at more self-sustainable skill, which helps them reduce their own costs and expenditure,
Hmm.
earn a little bit of income, and also uplift people around. More women can do it, or they can help others around. And
Right.
if they are in an urban setting, then they have the option to travel and actually
Hmm.
get a job somewhere, whether it's part time, whether it's full time. So it depends on the skill, I feel, and the opportunity around. And that's
Hmm.
something which we have to look into, going into a village, that if we are giving them, training them on this scale, what is the option after that? Are they just going to learn something and sit at home, or is it actually going to give them some opportunity to earn something? So we just have to see based on that. For the younger women, I feel like there are a lot of computer courses that happen. We were also doing that. Now,
True.
those are courses that were um, not for a self-sustainable home income. They're going to obviously go and learn some more, or take another course, or get a
Hmm.
job based on a computer course. But a stitching course, for example, is not aimed at that. It's more for
Hmm.
self-sustainable employment.
Oh, absolutely, ma'am. Now, this would be an important question, ma'am, especially from a point of view of implementation. And I ask this with your years of experience, primarily maybe from an education and a health point of view. If you could share some insights of certain cost-effective ways in which Pahwa Group has been able to attend to greater number of beneficiaries, because it goes without saying, that the availability of resources, both capital and manpower, generally, is not abundant, especially for implementation agencies. Some best practices or some insights which can lead to effectively reaching to greater number of beneficiaries within the limitations of resources that you have implemented in your past health camps or the outreach and the education programs that you have done.
Okay. So resources are limited, that is for sure.
Sure.
And I think our target has always been to reach the maximum, get the maximum out of the resources, and reach the maximum number of people. We actually have a very strong reporting system. So we look at the costing of everything that we are doing. We have quarterly reports that our partners would share with us. And we keep looking at these to see where we can be the maximum effective. You want to be so, like you said, resources are definitely limited, and our aim is to stretch them the maximum and reach the maximum number of beneficiaries. And we're also looking at long term impact. So,
Right.
one thing is looking at practices which are going to be cost effective. For example, if we have ICAMs, we'd like to have them in a certain radius of geographical area. The
Right.
further we go, is going to the further we go is going to have an impact on the cost of transportation and also for
Sure.
setting up a program. So
Right.
distance for us is a something we look at. We are very particular about our geographical area so that
Right.
we aren't stretching ourselves on going that distance. We want to be in an area where we can visit our programs regularly. We
G.
can reach them within a day and come back. It's not something we need to travel for days and then
Hmm.
reach. So there's monitoring that can happen. So that's one of the things we are particular on, which helps in being cost effective. Another
Hmm.
one is, I think, on long term impact that's there. So, and that'll only happen where there is some sort of community involvement and the community has some
Hmm.
sort of ownership.
Right.
What our thing is that people don't have that value for something that is given away for free over and over again. If
Makes
there's some
sense.
sort of ownership and there's some sort of
Hmm.
investment that's happening from the company and the NGO side, the
Hmm.
stakeholders also need to have some involvement or some ownership towards that project. So, for
Right.
example, when we're building toilets in rural
Hmm.
areas, there is a very, very minimal contribution from the family that the toilets, whose house the toilet is being made for. So
Hmm.
they have some sort of ownership that is there, and something that's just totally given for free is sometimes not appreciated. It's
Hmm.
not kept up. It's not as important for them to keep it clean or to look after it or to maintain it. So sometimes we feel that there's an investment from the NGO and the company. So we have these very few, but maybe one odd project where we have this strategy now that for the toilets, for example, where there's a very minor
Right.
contribution from the family itself so that they also have some, so they're invested actually also
Makes sense.
uh, in maintaining it and also in the outcome and success of that program. So that's just one of them. Most of them are completely free for the beneficiaries, but we do have this as well.
For sharing those insights, and I absolutely endorse the view about how it's important to have co-ownership between all stakeholders of the program. May that be the beneficiaries, the NGO partner, and of course the end NGO, which is looking after the programs, sustainability in the long run, because uh, uh, from a point of being able to serve greater number of beneficiaries, uh, co-ownership ensures that the value for the asset or for the skill or for the resources dedicated to the program uh, is in a way valued in terms for the end beneficiaries, and then they understand the importance of how uh, they have to ensure its sort of survivability in the long run. And I think it also becomes very relevant from a point of asset creation programs. May that be, as we were speaking, around water dispensers or classrooms being created. Unless there's a pattern or there's a instillment of values of co-ownership, I think it would repeatedly be a drain on the CSR spends of companies, because unless people don't have the feeling of co-ownership to it, they would expect over and over being granted for the same program, and that would then impede the spread or the scalability of future programs.
Right. The idea is to actually start a program and then be able to exit, and then it has to be
Mm,
sustainable for the community to run. So that's only going to happen, like you said, if they are invested in the success of the program. They have to understand the benefits, and they have to have some sort of
mm,
co-ownership, and they have to be able to run it on their own. So certain programs, especially when it comes to water centers or classrooms or even
mm.
toilets, like the example that I gave, are all around that same idea.
Absolutely. There are so many priority areas for social inclusion initiatives which an NGO can take up. Especially there's so many, and I think every aspect or every theme or any program and idea is equally relevant. I mean, like Power Group, prioritizes on health, education, for NGO leaders who are part of this audience to also identify what is that cause which best suits or which best resonates with their thoughts. So, yeah, how did you zero down on this particular three areas?
We were quite clear going forward when we started with
Mm,
CSR that we want to do it in a planned manner.
sure.
And we had a lot of brainstorming as to which area. Like you said, there's so many areas, and there is so much work that is needed in all areas. How do you
Mm,
choose which one? It's what
mm,
the company's value kind of, resonates with, or we took
mm,
our legacy forward from Rai Bahadur, Dr. Mathra Das. We took our inspiration from him,
right.
and we
Mm,
narrowed down on those two areas of vision as well as education. So
right.
we got our guidance from there. And of course, environment is the need of the time, sustainability, even sanitation. So all of that is what is the need of the time. And as a company, it goes well with our values also, and our product line
Mm,
as well, because we are also present in that environment space where it's
right.
air control and air environment control systems for air
Mm,
management. So that's how our three areas linked in. But I think
mm,
every company would have areas which they want to be present in, which may be close to their heart for various other reasons. For NGOs, I feel it is the geographical area that the NGO is present in. What is the need of
mm,
that area
mm,
specifically? What is the expertise of the NGO also? You have to look at
correct.
your own strengths. Every NGO has a certain area that they are in, or whether it's
Mm,
education, they're into education, whether it's environment or health or women, self-help groups, so or skill development. I rarely come across an NGO which is doing all of the above, like I mentioned. Everyone
cannot be.
has their expertise as well, and that
Mm,
depends on their expertise, the services they
mm,
can provide, the area where
mm,
they are present in, where they have community presence. It's also important to have a community presence and take the community with you in everything that you do. As a
right.
corporate, may not have the community presence. So another thing that
Mm,
corporates look at is the community presence. That's something we look at. That if
mm,
this is a project that we want to do, this is the community. What is the presence of the NGO there? What
mm,
is the impact? What is the reputation? What is the track record of the NGO in the past few years? If it's in the field that they are present in the area they are present in, I personally feel that given the geographical distances and how India is and how rural India is, it's hard
mm,
and kind of impossible, I feel, to run programs on remote control. We can't be sitting
absolutely.
uh, and not visiting the location for months or for weeks. It doesn't work without monitoring. So I feel the community presence that's there for the NGO is important for us. So we look at that as well, and the area of expertise that the NGO is in.
Mm. I endorse that views, and I feel that's something to do with legacy learning. So there is, like you rightly said, that there are certain NGOs which have a core strength. So, for example, if I talk about NABIT, it's been all our programs are centric around disability and inclusion and employment. Now, anything that
Right.
we do in the future has to be, it can maybe go beyond, say, IT services, which was the main offering, which we were engaged in, and now we're trying to venture into other spaces. But what is centric with every new idea is that what are the potential number of new employments, what is the sustainability of this intervention, and what would be the strategy to, if it comes to grant being reduced or increased, how will it potentially impact the program? So how, if these three things are answered, I think that's how even we make a decision towards every new program. And while yes, we just like this podcast, we do bombard with new ideas. Why can't we try this, that, or whatever? But eventually, it all comes down to is it centrally uh, impact increase? Is it going to increase the impact which the program is going to deliver? And if that is a yes, and it is it centric to the specific idea of increasing awareness or employment? If these two things are answered, is when we look into progressing towards anything new which comes up. So that's
Yes.
rightly said, ma'am. What you mentioned about, ma'am. The next question would be that you stressed upon in your previous responses on the importance of community building, which means eventually, with the exit of a program, the responsibility to a greater extent lies with the local community, which has benefited, to ensure sustainability, to ensure uh, progress of the program henceforth. Now, some successful interventions on how have you helped in leveraging the strength of the community in the thematic places or zones that you have worked with in the past? Uh, you mentioned around how primarily the CSR programs are around NCR and also some parts of Punjab. So, how have you mobilized the local community in a limitation of, or on a more uh, from a point of leveraging their equal participation so that they feel that they are also a part of the program, and it's just not the NGO or the group which is supporting the program. It's just not Power Group who's looking after it.
Right. So the ideal is that you start a program and you can exit and it's sustainable on its own and you've made an impact and a change in the
Hmm.
quality of living and there's some sort of upliftment that is happening due to that program in that village. So one of the programs where I can cite an example where we have been successful with our NGO partner in doing this is setting up community water centers. So
Okay.
this program is where they would build a little shed and there's a RO plant that is put. So it's a community water center in villages where there is literally no potable water. And
Okay.
we have to really work with the community. There's a lot of awareness that has to happen as to what these
Hmm.
RO plants are. How do you actually
Hmm.
run the RO plant? How do you maintain it? And going forward, how is the water going to be distributed amongst the villagers? So
Hmm.
there has to be a partnership. There has to be some co-ownership here, and the villagers have to take over and they have to start running the RO plant. So what they do is that they appoint one person who's going to be trained on how to manage the RO plant, and all the villagers, all the families get cards which they have to
Hmm.
pay a very minimal amount monthly to get that card. And
Hmm.
those contributions, the monthly contributions from the various households, goes towards a salary for the person who's maintaining and managing the RO plant. And then
Right.
also, if there's maintenance that's required, any repair, any maintenance, anything like that, also. So,
Hmm.
initially, there's a lot of hand holding, there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of community activation, there's a lot of training. And then slowly, they have to take ownership and then we have to exit. So, this is
Hmm.
a way where they have some sort of co ownership and then they start running it on their own and they keep maintaining it as time goes on. So this is
Hmm.
one such example where we have succeeded in doing this along with
Hmm.
the NGO that we're partnered with on this. That's one
Right.
of the co-ownership sustainable programs that we've been doing. Another one
Great.
is the toilet construction, where we've
Okay.
actually have done individual toilet constructions
Hmm.
in the home as opposed to doing a communal one where we obviously there is a need, but rather than building community washrooms, then there's always a problem as to who's going to take ownership if it's for the community, who's going to maintain it, who's
Right.
going to clean it. So why
Hmm.
have a large number of washrooms in a common area for the whole community? We didn't feel that that's something. going forward would be sustainable. There would be no
Right.
ownership coming from anybody because it's for the community, but no one's going to come forward to clean it if they need to or maintain it if they need to.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this was another one where we, after a lot of conversations and feedback and focus groups, that we figured that individual household projects is the way to go, because
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
it's your individual household toilet managed by your own family for your own private use. So there is
Right.
complete ownership, there's complete responsibility, very clearly that they have to maintain it, and it's their
Hmm.
ownership going forward. And also in this project, there is a contribution from that family because we are
Okay.
coming in building for you in your home. So there's a slight contribution from your side as well to take the responsibility and have the ownership and go ahead looking after that and maintaining it going forward. So this is
Hmm.
another one where there is some sort of contribution and co-ownership, and then again it's sustainable. Where the NGO as well as the corporate we exit, and it's
Hmm.
handed over to the community and the
Okay.
beneficiaries in question. So these two are examples where there is ownership and sustainability where we exit.
And ma'am, when you say exit, it means a total exit. There is not a penny going into these programs from a point. And I hope it's that way because that is then signifies, a complete community-led initiative from there on.
Well, we are still present in the same area, because if we
Okay.
are doing household toilets in one toilet, then of course the
Hmm.
neighbor also wants it, and then one somebody else down the
Hmm.
street wants it. So
Right.
it's definitely multiple toilets in the same village. Then you move on to the next neighboring village. So there is an
Okay.
exit from the point of that one toilet is handed over. But
Okay.
yes, the
Hmm.
NGO is present in the community and in the
Hmm.
neighboring villages, and similar work is being carried on in the same village, and then the next village and the next village. You move on, but we are present in the area. The work is happening still in the same area, but yes,
Okay.
that one toilet is handed to the family, and it is an exit completely.
Okay.
You haven't had the
So
need to go back, or the NGO has not had any complaints or any need to go back or to help with any maintenance or any issues like that.
awesome. So it's at a unit level, it's an exit. As a
Yes,
unit, there's an exit.
yes.
That's wonderful, ma'am, because that I think then reflects in how can scalability happen. Else, people would remain engaged in just the old programs, and that's relevant and very important to ensure. The last question, ma'am, for the session, and I understand I'm a little spilling on the time, but still, uh, before we close the talk, in the space of CSR, ma'am, you know, it's a question between, and I asked this question from a point of getting future talents in this space. Um, and I see that there are people coming in from leading education institutions. There are people from IRMA, from IIMs who are now participating in this space. For those talents who are maybe listening to this podcast, if it's a question between uh, uh, inclination between one of the two, come with the intent or come for the money, how would you phrase, how would you think a future talent should participate in this space? Should it be intent driven, or should it be something which can be as comfort or cushy as a job in he would have rightfully been able to get with his educational background at say an investment banking or some other space? So what would be the ideal spin to this?
It has to be a combination of both.
Right.
CSR is not a field that you can really be present in if you don't have the inclination or the intent for this kind of work.
Hmm.
I strongly believe that there's a certain personality, there's a certain mindset that you need, because you are doing not office related work. You're doing community work. There's a lot of human interaction that's
Hmm.
required, and
Hmm.
you have to be driven towards that, and they have
Hmm.
to be passionate towards that as well.
Hmm.
As any field is, I mean, if you're interviewing somebody for a different job, you're also looking for commitment and passion and whatever the
Hmm.
requirements are there. So here, that definitely intent is needed. Uh, but now I think that the field that we're in is growing. There's so many
Hmm.
corporates now that have designated CSR departments. Earlier, it was maybe only the HR person taking it forward. There's so many foundations that corporates are setting up. There's so many
mm,
foundations even families are setting up. There's so many chambers of commerce that are getting into
mm,
CSR work. So, and now with the government mandate being so clear on the spending that has to happen, there's going to be a lot of spending
mm,
that's happening in this field. So it is a
mm,
growing field, and there is opportunity for people to come and you know
mm,
apply for jobs in the CSR field. So it's a growing field, and it's only going to go more and higher up from here. So now
mm,
there is more opportunity, and the jobs are also better paying than what they were, let's say, 10,
mm.
12, 15 years
Absolutely.
ago
Mm,
when none of this was there. And there are a lot more NGOs also that are forming as well. There's no dearth of
mm,
NGOs, a lot of them doing very good work. So
mm,
there are job opportunities on both sides, whether the NGO side or the corporate side going forward. So
mm,
it's a great space to be in, and now I don't think that we have to only think of intent or a salary.
mm,
It's
mm,
means you have need the intent for sure, and there are competitive salaries that are there being offered.
mm,
And more than that, I think you have to look at the job satisfaction that you get doing a job where you're
true.
actually having the impact that you have on other
Mm,
people's lives. Which other job is going to give you that job satisfaction and being able
absolutely.
to reach so many people and help so many people? It's a very respectable and feel good factor that's there.
Very true, ma'am. No, absolutely, ma'am. I think that is unique only to this profession. When it comes to for the talents who may be entering the space, the satisfaction of just beyond work also being the reason for positively impacting many lives. I think apart from maybe healthcare, some other profession which comes to my mind is this. You could be the reason for many positive impacts happening in the lives. But then, eventually, I also believe that the availability of resources, or if not very high paying, but at least reasonably well paying jobs, are important to attract the best talent to the space. And
Right.
else that would be compromised. And thus this question. But thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts and about the CSR programs of Pahwa Group with me and the audience of Unnati. And with that note, ma'am, just a parting note before we end this podcast.
So it's great to be here and have this conversation. It's important also to put all of it out there and influence somebody else to get involved in CSR, whether in any whichever small way they do, because the need is there. And India
Mm,
being such a large country and the majority being in a rural setting, there is definitely a lot of need going forward also.
absolutely, ma'am. I completely believe that we are, looking towards a place where uh, corporate responsibility would now, from a corporate level, also move down the employees, and they would also resonate with the thought. And I think that's the importance of also ensuring greater employee volunteering across organizations, because that way they come to realize and they come to associate with the particular programs which the corporate has taken up. And I remember you had mentioned about how your employees have also been actively participating in the field programs which the Power Group takes up. That sets a culture across. It starts from the leadership and then precipitates across the organization. And I hope to have the opportunity to host you again, ma'am, in a subsequent time whenever it will be convenient. And thank you so much for sparing your time today, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun.
Take care.